So fellas, this week we're back in Brazil, Oliveira versus Mateusz Gamrot, and I'm currently 0-5 in the last 5 UFC main event predictions, so I need to get this one right. Hopefully we'll not keep the fucking loser streak up, but it's a decent card for a fight night. If I had to rate the card, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 for a fight night. It's better than your average Airbex card. I'd say it's like on par with the average crowded fight night. Very top heavy, great featured fight, co-main event and main event. The rest of the card is kind of like lackluster, not really too many big Brazilian names on there, but we'll break down every fighter on the card, and we'll start off with Saaiman Oliveira versus Luan Lacerda. Now, Saaiman Oliveira, quite a decent run in the regional scene, becoming a champion, ends up winning on the contender series, and so far is 0-3 in the UFC, getting finished in both of those losses as he takes on Lacerda, who has a high finishing rate, all of them, or most of these finishes being by, or all of his finishes being by way of submission. Decent run in the regional scene, big winning streak, becoming a champion, and so far is 0-2 in the UFC, getting finished in one of them. The style of Saaiman Oliveira, he's got this weird ass amateur striking style. He's quite a fragile guy as well as Saaiman Oliveira. He's quite a fragile guy, quite tall and I guess skinny for 135. I think he needs to move up a weight class, and he does tend to have a decent solid grappling pace. That's where he excels, but he's not the highest level guy. He's also very inactive as well. He fights literally less than once a year nowadays, so very fragile, weird kind of striking style, and I guess he excels on the ground. Lacerda, he's actually pretty decent kickboxer. He's got really good kicks to the body as well. When he took on Cody Stamann, I thought he won that fight against Cody Stamann, to be fair, and he ended up losing the decision, but he looks dangerous early on, but he tends to gas out fast as well as Luan Lacerda. That seems to be the biggest flaw. I'm going to go with Lacerda to win this one by decision. I just can't pick Saaiman Oliveira. The guy's 0-2, 0-3 in the UFC. He's been finished in 2 of those losses. He fights an average once a year. He got slept earlier on this year. His last win was back in, I think it was 2021 as well. And to be fair to Lacerda, even though he's 0-2 in the UFC, there's context behind those losses. Damon Blackshear is one of the best unranked grapplers in the bantamweight division. There's no shame in losing to him. The fight against Cody Stamann in his debut, I thought he won that fight against Cody Stamann, so I think Lacerda gets this one done by decision. I just don't really think Saaiman Oliveira is very that good. He's not really shown up in the UFC so far. His striking's bad. His grappling's, I guess his grappling's decent as well, but he's also very chinny too, fragile for the division, so I'm going to go Lacerda to win this one by decision. I just think he's better. I think he pieces up Saaiman Oliveira on the feet, takes him to a decision, gets the job done. I just can't pick Saaiman Oliveira. 0-3 in the UFC, 2 of them being by way of finish, inactive as well. I'm going to go Lacerda to win this one by decision. Then we've got Valter Walker versus Mohammad Usman. The UFC 300 main event should have been this. We've got Valter Walker, who is the brother of Johnny Walker. Undefeated winning streak on the regional scene, become a champion. Lost his UFC debut to Lucas Brzezinski, which is, I don't know how he did that, because after that he's now on a 3-fight winning streak with 3 straight heel hooks. He gets a submission win by heel hook over Junior Tafa, heel hook over Dontel Mayes, heel hook over Kenny Nzekuku. His last 3 fights have all ended by heel hook, and that's kind of what he's known for now in the UFC. Mohammad Usman is the brother of Kamaru Usman. He had a decent run in the regional scene, goes over to PFL, gets submitted in PFL, and he comes through on the Ultimate Fighter, wins the Ultimate Fighter finale, but so far in the UFC he's 3-2. All of his fights going to a decision. The style of Valter Walker, it's heel hook. It is heel hook. I mean, that's literally all he's done in the UFC. 3 wins, all of them by heel hook. That is the style of Valter Walker. It is just heel hook after heel hook. That's how he can really break down. He wants to bum rush you and get the heel hook. And Mohammad Usman's a bit of a ploddy points fighter. You look at Mohammad Usman's frame for the heavyweight division, you'd expect him to be better than he is. In a division full of ploddy guys, Mohammad Usman is one of those guys. He's very ploddy, low volume, basic strike who mixes in the wrestling every now and then with his size, but he's not the highest level guys. Mohammad Usman, very low level fighter. So I'm going to go with Valter Walker to win this one by submission in the first round. This is a step down in competition for Valter Walker. Mohammad Usman's very low level. I think Valter Walker is going to look good. He's one of the better heavyweight up-and-comers we've got right now, and he obviously has success with the heel hook. I think he takes down Mohammad Usman and gets, even if it's not a heel hook, I think he'll get a submission in the first round. He's got a really good submission ability, clearly, and he's fought better guys than Mohammad Usman as well. I mean, the guy fought Kenny Nzekuku, who's a more dangerous and better version and a polished version of Mohammad Usman. He submitted him easily as well. And in terms of Mohammad Usman, the guy is one of the lowest level guys on the roster. You look at all of his wins, he hasn't got a single impressive win in the UFC. He hasn't got a single finish in the UFC. And the 2 guys that he lost to as well, Mick Parkin was a close fight, but he also lost to Thomas Petersen. So I'm going to go Valter Walker to win this one. I think he bum rushes Mohammad Usman and takes him down. Usman is not high level at all. If I'm being honest, he shouldn't really be in the UFC. You know what I mean? He came from the Ultimate Fighter. Winning the Ultimate Fighter as a heavyweight means nothing. He's only in the UFC because he's the brother of Kamaru Usman as well. So I think Valter Walker gets this one done. Sub in the first round. And you know what? I'm going to gamble. I'm going to go heel hook as well. I think he goes on a 4-fight winning streak. All of them by first round heel hook. And I think he's going to get it over Mohammad Usman. I'm going to go Valter Walker by sub. Then we've got Jafel Filho versus Clayton Carpenter. Now, Jafel Filho, decent run in the regional scene, becoming a champion. It's a good finish on the Contender Series, loses to Mohammad Usman in his UFC debut, gets 2 finishes in his next 2 fights. He's coming off a loss to Alekseeva in his most recent fights. He takes on Clayton Carpenter, who goes on a 5-0 run in the regional scene, comes on the Contender Series, gets 2 finishes in his first 2 fights in the UFC, and lost his most recent fight by decision to Karolina. The style of Jafel Filho. He's a crafty BJJ artist with good submission ability. Yeah, he's got good submission ability. He's one of the best unranked grapplers, is Jafel Filho. Even when he fought Mohammad he got Mohammad in a really, really tight knee bar, which come close to submitting him, but he does historically struggle against other high-level grapplers. Like I said, against Mohammad against Alekseeva, when you put him against another grappler who's kind of on his level or above him, he kind of loses, and he's also got very mid-striking, not impressive on the feet at all. Clayton Carpenter, very well-rounded and dangerous. He's dangerous everywhere the fight goes. He's got slick pressure boxing, dangerous on the feet. He's got a Golden Gloves boxing background as well, and he's got nearly elite level wrestling and ground game as well. He's got 2 subs in the UFC, very dangerous everywhere, is Clayton Carpenter. And for that reason, I'm going to go Clayton Carpenter by decision. I think Carpenter's going to absolutely destroy Jafel Filho. I just don't see anywhere in the fight where I'd favour Jafel Filho to win. I think on the feet, well, I think the fight is going to stay on the feet. I think Clayton Carpenter's got really good wrestling. He keeps the fight standing, and is going to completely box the head off of Jafel Filho. Filo's a mid-striker. Carpenter, like I said, former Golden Gloves boxer, heavy hands on the feet. Couple of good knockouts on the regional scene. He was landing some good shots as well against Karolina, who's Khabib's partner as well. So I'm going to go Carpenter by decision. Keeps the fight standing, completely pieces up Jafel Filho. Even if the fight does get taken down, I don't see there being much from Jafel Filho. I don't see him getting a submission win over Clayton Carpenter, who's shown to have good grappling. I think Carpenter's stand-up ability will be enough as well. He showed that in the fight with Karolina. So I'm going to go Carpenter decision. He's better everywhere the fight goes, and I think the fight will stay standing and is going to piece up Jafel Filho. He's one of the better flyweight kind of up-and-coming guys, is Clayton Carpenter, so I'm picking to win this one by decision. Then we've got Julia Polastri versus Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Now, Julia Polastri, good run on the regional scene, becoming a champion, loses on the Contender Series to Jasmine Judovicius, goes back to the regional scene, goes 3-0, winning the belt in LFA, goes back to the Contender Series, gets a finish, and so far she's 1-2 in the UFC. She takes on Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, good run on the regional scene, becoming a KSW champion, goes 3-0 in her first 3 fights in the UFC, gets a title fight against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, where she loses to Joanna Jędrzejczyk, gets finished in the next fight. After that, she picks up 2 wins just to go on quite a big losing streak in women MMA, getting finished in 2 of those losses as well by Jessica Penn and Jessica Andrade. And since then, she goes on a 4-fight winning streak, and she's lost her last 2 fights by decision. The style of Julia Polastri, she's an absolute dog for women MMA. Has a chin, insanely durable. She fought Lupita Godinez in the most recent fight, and she was getting beaten comfortably by Lupita Godinez. Godinez was out grappling her, beating her comfortably, and Julia Polastri was walking her down in the 3rd round like an absolute dog. So she's quite a good fighter, quite a fun fighter for women MMA standards, and she has got a bit of a BJJ submission background, which seems to be the main background of Julia Polastri. Karolina Kowalkiewicz, a well-rounded veteran who has a pretty good 3-round pace. She's one of those classic kind of veterans like an Angela Hill. She's got good stamina, good 3-round pace, good striking, good grappling, just doesn't really seem to excel anywhere, and she's definitely past her prime. You know, it's been years since she fought for the belt. She's past her prime. I'm going to go with Julia Polastri by decision. I just think Polastri's better everywhere the fight goes. I think she's going to walk down Karolina Kowalkiewicz and get the decision win. Yeah, she showed that she's got really good boxing against Lupita Godinez, who's way better than Kowalkiewicz. I don't see there being much grappling from Kowalkiewicz either. I think Polastri's the better submission artist. She's more dangerous, so I just think Polastri's better everywhere the fight goes. I think she's going to walk down Kowalkiewicz, piece her up with the boxing, and I think Kowalkiewicz, she should think about retirement soon. You know, she's lost her last 2 fights to Yasmin Lucindo, the D-Scoms as well. So I'm going to go Julia Polastri by decision. And then we've got Irina Alekseeva versus Beatriz Mesquita. Now, Alekseeva, the Russian wonder, goes 4-1 on the regional scene. It gets a submission win in her UFC debut, and has lost her last 2 fights in the UFC. She takes on Mesquita, who has a massive grappling background, comes from a BJJ background, a bunch of submission wins over at BJJ, 5-0 on the regional scene as well, becoming an LFA champion. Every single one of her wins by way of finish. The style of Alekseeva, she's a fun, high-paced fighter with negative fight IQ. She's quite a good fighter everywhere as Alekseeva, high pace, fun to watch, but she has got negative fight IQ. She's got good kickboxing. That's kind of where she excels, but she struggles everywhere defensively. On the feet, she's defensively not sound. On the ground, she's defensively not sound, so kind of struggles everywhere. In terms of Mesquita, she's a BJJ back grappler. I mean, I don't need to tell you this. I mean, just look at her record. Massive BJJ background, and she clearly has great submission ability. 5-0 on the regional scene, with all of them being by way of finish. I'm going to go with Mesquita to win this one by subbing the 1st round. Yeah, I mean, if She's 5-0 on the regional scene, all of them being by grappling-related finishes, and she comes from this massive background, and she's an LFA champion, which is actually a decent promotion for upcoming fighters. I'm going to go with Mesquita to win this one. Alekseeva, I just don't really know if she's UFC worthy. I mean, she's been taken down by the likes of Saaiman, who's very low level. I think Mesquita, being the grappler that she is, she's going to find a lot of success in this fight. I think she's going to take down Alekseeva fairly early on and pull off a submission. So I'm going to go with Beatriz Mesquita to get this one done. Sub in the first round over Alekseeva. Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm bought on the hype when I've not even seen her in the UFC yet, but she seems to be, like I said, a really talented grappler. I think I'm going to pair her to beat Alekseeva. 5-3 in the UFC. Her only win being over Stephanie Egger. I'm going to go Mesquita to win this one by sub in the first round. Then we've got Rocha versus Stewart Nicoll battling out for their first win in the UFC. Now, Rocha, decent run of the regional scene, only one loss, becoming a champion on the local scene as well. As he takes on, he also ended up losing to, what's his name, Clayton Carpenter, as he takes on Stewart Nicoll. Stewart Nicoll, a good undefeated run on the regional scene, becoming a champion, and he got submitted in his UFC debut by Jesus Aguilar, choked out cold. The style of Rocha, he's a pretty heavy-handed flyweight. That's all I can really say. There's nothing too unique about Rocha, but he is a pretty heavy-handed guy. He's Rocha, good, powerful guy for flyweight. Stewart Nicoll, fast-paced, talented striker who seems to struggle with the grappling a lot. That kind of seems to be the style of Stewart Nicoll. Fast-paced, good striker, good grappling. He did seem pretty dangerous on the regional scene as well. He had a lot of hype coming into his UFC debut, but he got easily submitted by Jesus Aguilar. This is a pretty give-or-take fight. It's a pretty 50-50 pick. I'm going to go Rocha to win this one by decision. He had a much better run, well, not better, but he had a much bigger run on the regional scene, and losing to Clayton Carpenter in your debut is no shame, to be honest. And I just think he's better kind of everywhere the fight goes. I think he's more dangerous on the feet than Stewart Nicoll, even though Nicoll didn't look bad against Jesus Aguilar. In fact, he looked good in that fight. It is a pretty 50-50 fight, if I'm being honest, but I'm going to lean towards Jesus Aguilar. I think he's got better grappling, better striking. I think it's going to be a very close fight where Rocha seems to pick up the win. So I'm going to go Rocha to win this one by decision, but again, pretty 50-50 fight. I know that Stewart Nicoll had a lot of hype and he looked good against Aguilar, but I'm going to go Rocha by decision. Then we've got Vitor Petrino versus Thomas Petersen, probably the most heavyweight fight you could have possibly made in the UFC. Now, Vitor Petrino, good run on the regional scene. Comes from the Contender Series, knocks out Rodolfo Bellato, a guy who he'd already beaten on the regional scene. He then goes 4-0 in the UFC with 2 good finishes over Marcin Prachnio and Modestas Bukauskas. He then faces Anthony Smith as an astronomical favourite, and he embarrassingly gets submitted by Anthony Smith in Smith's last win in the UFC, and then he gets knocked out by Dustin Jacoby. So he puffs up, gets fat as fuck, moves up to the heavyweight division, and so far at heavyweight he's submitted Austin Lane in his UFC heavyweight debut as he takes on Thomas Petersen. Now, Thomas Petersen, good run on the regional scene, all of his wins by way of finish, becomes a champion, and also lost to Waldo Cortez Acosta, gets a good finish on the Contender Series, and so far he's 2-2 in the UFC, getting knocked out by Shamil Gaziev in one of those losses. The style of Vitor Petrino, he's a physically imposing control wrestler with good submissions. Yeah, Petrino wants to take you down. He wants to take the fight to the mat, look for a submission. He is a grappler first. He has got power in his hands. We saw when he knocked out Modestas Bukauskas, but he's a bit of a ploddy and a very average fighter on the feet. We saw the way that Dustin Jacoby slept his ass too, so he's a heavy grappler. He's Petrino, bit ploddy on the feet, but he is kind of dangerous everywhere the fight goes. Not dangerous, not really dangerous, but, you know, I guess he's talented. And Thomas Petersen, he's another control wrestler, and he's actually got decent volume on these feet. You know, he was able to outstrike Mohammad Usman across 15 minutes, and he has got good wrestling. But the problem is his athleticism. You don't even need to watch his fights to say that. Just look at the fucking size of the fella. He looks like a pug. Yeah, the athleticism is what's lacking for Thomas Petersen. That's his biggest flaw. I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino to win this one by decision. We've seen historically light heavyweights that move into the heavyweight division have a lot more success, and Petrino showed that. He just submitted Austin Lane in his debut, and I just think he wins the fight everywhere. If the fight stays standing, I can kind of see a world where Thomas Petersen beats him with pure volume, but I think Petrino's the more dangerous striker. He's got heavier hands. I mean, if Shamil Gaziev's knocking you out, I don't see why Petrino won't have success on the feet. And I think grappling-wise, I think Petrino's the better grappler. Very big and strong for the heavyweight division. He was at light heavyweight too, so I think physically imposing, he'll be able to physically impose Thomas Petersen. And I think he'll just win by decision. Lands the bigger strikes on the feet, takes him down, controls him for a lot of the time. Thomas Petersen's all right, but I mean, look at both of his wins in the UFC. He beat Mohammad Usman, who's one of the lowest level guys on the roster, and Dontel Mayes, who ain't even in the UFC anymore. He's been knocked out by Shamil Gaziev, outstruck by Jamal Pogue. So I'm gonna go Petrino. He was one of the light heavyweights' better prospects. He's moved up to heavyweight so far. Easy submission over Austin Lane. I'm gonna go Vitor Petrino by decision. Then we have one of the most violent fights the the UFC could have possibly made. Vicente Luque versus Yoel Alvarez. Yoel Alvarez making his 170 debut. Now, Vicente Luque, decent run in the regional scene, comes over to the Ultimate Fighter, goes 1-2 on the Ultimate Fighter. But after that, he goes in a nice run in the UFC, only losing to Leon Edwards, also historically knocking out Belal Muhammad and absolutely messing up Mike Perry. He then loses to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and after that, he goes 4-0 in the UFC, builds a bunch of hype with 4 straight finishes in his next 4 fights, and he was kind of one of the better prospects at welterweight at this time. He then goes a bit of a downfall. He main events against Belal Muhammad, gets flattened across for 25 minutes against Belal Muhammad. He then gets pieced up and knocked out by Jeff Neal. He main events against Rafael dos Santos, beats dos Santos, and then he gets finished by Joaquin Buckley, submits Temba Grimbaugh, and submitted by Kevin Holland in his most recent fight. Yoel Alvarez, very dangerous dude. 23-3, all of his wins by finish, 100% finishing rate in every single one of his wins. He comes from the regional scene, massive winning streak, becoming a champion, also launched the Flagrant podcast as well. He loses his UFC debut, but after that he goes and gets 4 straight finishes in the UFC, runs into Arman Tsarukyan, gets messed up by Arman Tsarukyan, but after that he's 3-0 in his last 3 fights, all of them being by way of finish. The style of Vicente Luque. This guy used to be a killer. He was dangerous everywhere. He was once one of the welterweight's best prospect. Dangerous stand-up guy. Good dogfighter. Good submission ability too. But he has fallen off drastically. He's definitely washed and past his prime. He kind of excels with the choke ability. He's got really good crafty submissions. Just Vicente Luque. That Darce choke of his seems to be the kind of the key submission for Vicente Luque. But he's defensively, his chin sucks. He's got a bad chin. He's got bad defense. He's kind of known for taking a beating nowadays. Bit of a punching bag. And he's kind of vulnerable everywhere the fight goes. I mean, the guy got submitted by Kevin Holland in his most recent fight. Very, very vulnerable guy. Yoel Alvarez is a dangerous submission artist. I mean, the guy's dangerous everywhere. He's an absolute machine, but submission ability is kind of where he excels. He's also a really good clinch striker as well. We saw in his most recent fight. He's got really good knees in the clinch, very, like, good, roughs people, but the clinch makes good use of his size when he was at 155. He does kind of lack the wrestling, but I'm kind of basing that off the fight with Arman Tsarukyan, which I guess when you talk about the best wrestler in the lightweight division isn't that much shame. I think Alvarez is going to absolutely fuck up Vicente Luque. This is the worst case scenario for Vicente Luque. I'm going to go Yoel Alvarez by sub in the first round. I really do feel like this is a nightmare matchup for Luque. I mean, you've got Luque, who's chinny, vulnerable, and washed against the most dangerous guy in the UFC. I see Yoel Alvarez having success everywhere. I think on the feet, Alvarez is going to land the bigger shots. I can see him roughing up Vicente Luque in the clinch with the knees and the elbows in the clinch, getting a hold of the neck of Vicente Luque and pulling off a submission. I just cannot pick Vicente Luque. I think the weight tie and the striking of Yoel Alvarez, he's going to absolutely piece up Vicente Luque on the feet. Any grappling exchanges, I think Alvarez being one of the best submission artists in the UFC, or at least at 155, moving up to 170, will be able to pull off a submission. I just cannot pick Vicente Luque. I mean, he's just been submitted by Kevin Holland, roughed up by Joaquin Buckley, roughed up by Jeff Neal. His last 2 wins have been against Temba Grimbaugh, who's a short notice replacement, and Rafael dos Santos at 58 years old, and he couldn't even finish dos Santos either. So this is like a coffin baby versus hydrogen bomb. Alvarez, I expect him to be better as well at 170 without the weight cut holding him back. I think he's going to look better in this division too, so I'm going to go Yoel Alvarez by sub in the first round. Just I can see him getting a TKO as well, ground and pound finish. I just think whatever happens, Alvarez is going to finish him. He's going to catch a body. Alvarez by submission in the first round. We then have Ricardo Ramos versus Kaan. Now, Ricardo Ramos, good run on the regional scene, comes over to the UFC. He also has a nice start to his UFC career as well, notably knocking out Ayman Zahabi and getting knocked out by Saidin Magomedov. He then goes on, I believe now he's gone had a bit of a bad run in the UFC. He's lost a couple of fights. He's only won 3. He's been finished quite a few times in this run as well. He did pick up a good spinning back elbow as well, which is a nice highlight reel, but it's not really been going his way, Ricardo Ramos, as he takes on Kaan. Kaan, good run on the regional scene, becoming a champion, comes over to the Ultimate Fighter, goes 2-0 in the Ultimate Fighter, but loses UFC debut to Marlon Santos, gets knocked out, and lost his most recent fight to Mohammad Naimov. The style of Ricardo Ramos, he's pretty much just spams flashy strikes, constantly hoping to land. That seems to be a bit of a theme of Ricardo Ramos. He always spans spinning shit. He got a good spinning back elbow a couple of years ago, and now that just seems to be his game plan, just spinning around. He's got pretty solid BJJ on the ground like a lot of these Brazilians do, but he is just quite vulnerable everywhere. He's defensively not the best on the feet. He gets caught a lot. Wrestling-wise, he's not the best either. Just not the highest level guys, Ricardo Ramos. And Kaan, pretty bad fight IQ, if I'm being honest. I mean, he's the type of guy to wobble you on the feet and then shoot a takedown. He's got that classic submission grappling style. We saw this on the Ultimate Fighter, but he's quite a gun-shy, stoley type fighter. He does kind of hold people against the cage a lot. It's a very low-level fight. I'm going to go with Ricardo Ramos to win this one by decision. He's had a couple of good wins in the UFC. Like I said, that win over Ayman Zahabi a few years back is aged tremendously. And even though he is losing, I mean, he's not losing to absolute cans, is Ricardo Ramos. So I think he's going to get the decision win. I think he is a bit more crafty on the feet than Kaan. Kaan has shown me nothing on the feet so far in the UFC. So I think Ricardo Ramos will have a success on the feet, kind of be able to land some bigger shots. And grappling-wise, I think he's a much more dangerous submission artist than Kaan, hopefully. So it is a bit of a toss-em. It's not a confident pick, but I'm going to go Ricardo Ramos by decision. Low-level fight. Hopefully, has not looked good in the UFC so far. I'm going to go Ramos by decision. Then we've got Lucas Almeida versus Michael Aswell. Lucas Almeida, undefeated on the regional scene with a shit ton of finishes, 100% finishing rate, becoming a champion as well. Loses on the Contender Series to Daniel Zellaba, goes back to the regional scene, picks up a submission win, and then so far in the UFC, he's 2-3, with most of them being by way of finish as well. Michael Aswell, decent one on the regional scene, becoming a champion in Fury FC, and lost his UFC, well, lost on the Contender Series to Bogdan Grad. Then gets another one on Fury FC, and lost his most recent fight in the UFC on short notice to Luque. The style of Lucas Almeida, he's a hard hitter with solid submission ability. Dangerous guy is Lucas Almeida. Powerful guy on the feet. Good submission ability too. He does seem talented, but he has got like a tough strength and schedule in the UFC. You look at his record in the UFC, his resume. He has kind of been put against some killers as a Lucas Almeida. Michael Aswell, he's a pretty accurate striker with good KO power. He's got a good amount of KOs on the regional scene. I mean, even in his UFC debut against Luque on short notice, even though he was on the back foot, he was still landing. He's got good accuracy in the division as well. I'm going to go with Michael Aswell by decision. It's a tough one to pick as well because Lucas Almeida is, I'd say, the more dangerous fighter, but he's also lost to, I guess, higher level guys than Michael Aswell. But to be fair to Michael Aswell, he was killing it on the regional scene. He was on this big run on the regional scene. And even in the UFC, like I said, he lost to Luque, but he put up a decent fight. He was on short notice as well. Oki's not necessarily a can, even though he's not the highest level guy either. So I could see a world where Michael Aswell gets chinned, but the momentum seems to be in his favour. I'm going to go Michael Aswell to win this one by decision. Bit of a 50-50 fight, but I'm leaning towards Aswell. Then we've got Jonathan Diniz versus Mario Pinto, who represents Portugal, but he's really British. Jonathan Diniz comes from Glory Kickboxing, big Glory Kickboxing background. It comes over to MMA. 5 straight wins with a 100% finishing rate. Gets good finish on the Contender Series. And then beats Carl Williams by decision and also flattens Austin Lane. And he got smashed up by Marcin Tybura in his next fight. But in his most recent fight, he beat Alvin Hines by decision. As he takes on Mario Pinto, who had a good big run on the regional scene, becoming a champion. Got a good KO on the Contender Series and just knocked out Austin Lane as well in his UFC debut brutally. The style of Diniz, he's a solid kickboxer for Rob Fat Heavyweight. Like I said, comes from Glory Kickboxing. He's nothing elite. He's not like one of these next level kickboxers for heavyweight, but he's a solid kickboxer for his size, but his grappling sucks. He made Marcin Tybura look like Gelton Almeida. He got absolutely ragdolled by Marcin Tybura. That's kind of the style of Diniz. Pretty kickboxing heavy style. Mario Pinto, he kind of reminds me of a Cyril Gane, does Mario Pinto. Good technical striker. He has KO power, but it's not really a KO artist, but he is slick. I know he's got a KO on the Contender Series in his debut as well in the UFC, but they're not against high level guys. So I can see Pinto being like a Cyril Gane-esque fighter. Good kind of points fighter, very technical, athletic guy, and he's one of the more athletic heavyweights. He's not just one of these ploddy fatties as well. He's quite big and, you know, not fat for the heavyweight division. And he's also got a solid base of grappling too. Couple submissions on the regional scene as well. I'm going to go Mario Pinto to win this one by decision. I honestly think Pinto can win this fight everywhere. He's much bigger and rangier than Jonathan Diniz. And even in his most recent fight, Diniz didn't look good against Alvin Hines. So I think Pinto's going to get the job done. I can see Pinto implementing grappling as well. I do think we're going to see Pinto implement some grappling too. We saw in the regional scene Mario Pinto shot a few takedowns, implement the grappling. I expect that to be the case against Diniz, who struggled with grappling so far in the UFC. And even in his most recent one against Alvin Hines, Hines was some randomer from the regional scene, and Diniz did not look great against him. So I think Pinto's going to get the job done. More athletic, way better grappler, probably on par with the striking as well. So I'm going to go Mario Pinto to win this one by decision. Then we've got the co-main event, Deiveson Figueiredo versus Montel Jackson. Now, Deiveson Figueiredo, obviously former flyweight champion, some of the most brutal wins at flyweight as well. Absolutely destroyed Joseph Benavidez, submitted Alex Perez to begin his title reign, and then he has the first quadrilogy in UFC history, fighting Brandon Moreno 4 times, unfortunately not getting the better of the quadrilogy. Then he moves up to the bantamweight division, 3 wins at bantamweight, beats Chito Vera, submits Cody Garbrandt, beats Rob Font, and then he main events against Petian, loses to Petian, main events against Corey Sanding, gets finished against Corey Sanding, and in his last 2 fights, as he takes on Montel Jackson, who had a good run on the regional scene, 5-0 on the regional scene, gets good finish on the Contender Series, and so far in the UFC, gets submission win in his debut against Brian Kelleher, and he's had a big run after that to bring him where he is now against Deiveson Figueiredo. The style of Figueiredo, powerful hands as well. Figueiredo was one of the hardest hitters at flyweight, and that's kind of translated to the bantamweight division. We saw when he dropped the iron chin of Marlon Vera, and he's got amazing BJJ. I think he's got some of the best BJJ in the bantamweight division. I mean, apart from maybe like Cody Garbrandt and maybe some other guys, I think Figueiredo is probably the best submission artist in this division. He's definitely past his prime. He's Figueiredo, especially for his age in the lower weight classes, but he's still got elite wrestling, and he's still one of the highest level guys in the UFC. Montel Jackson, very well-rounded and skilled up-and-coming guy. Very polished striker. Doesn't really do much promotional-wise, but he's very skilled, and he has got a wrestling background and a slick boxing style these days. He's one of the best and underrated up-and-coming bantamweights. I know Montel Jackson, you know, the odds, you know, they're not bad against Montel Jackson. I'm going to go with Davis and Figueiredo by decision. Listen, I know that Montel Jackson's on a nice rise. He's looked good in his last couple of fights. But, bro, we're talking about Figueiredo, the former flyweight champion, one of the most dominant flyweight, not one of the most dominant, definitely not one of the most dominant, but one of the highest level flyweight champions we've seen. 3-0 against 3 top contenders in the bantamweight division. Only lost to literally the best in Sandhagen and PTN. And now people are going to be picking Montel Jackson to beat this guy? I don't think so. I'm going to pick Figueiredo to win this one. I still think Figueiredo, even though he's past his prime, still one of the highest level guys in the UFC. I think he wins this fight comfortably. I think we are going to see a wrestling approach from Davis and Figueiredo. Implements the wrestling against Montel Jackson, takes him down, beats him on the ground, could even pull off a submission. So I think we are going to see a Figueiredo grappling heavy performance over Montel Jackson, even on the feet. I do like the style of Figueiredo on the feet. Powerful guy, probably hits harder than Montel Jackson too. Kind of got that good kind of stick and move style on the feet. So I'm going to go Figgy by decision. I'm not going to write off Figgy because he's literally lost to some of the best in the division. Still one of the highest level guys in the UFC. And I mean, Montel Jackson, his best win's Daniel Marcos. Good win, you know, beat the undefeated Daniel Marcos, but I'm not going to pick him to beat fucking Figgy over that win. So I'm going to go Figueiredo by decision, implements the grappling, takes down Montel Jackson. He's got home crowd advantage too. I'm going to go Figgy by decision. Then we've got Charles Oliveira. He just woke up from his nap after getting KO'd by Topuria about 2 months ago, and he's back headlining in Brazil on short notice against Mateusz Gamrot. Now, obviously, Oliveira is one of the most entertaining champions in lightweight history. From when he finished Michael Chandler, submitted Dustin Poirier, lost a belt by weight cut, but then still managed to beat Justin Gaethje. He's one of the most entertaining champions we've ever had. He then obviously takes on Makhachev, loses to Makhachev, finishes Dariush, loses to Arman, beats Michael Chandler, and got slept by Topuria in his most recent fight. But Oliveira, historically, one of the most entertaining fighters, one of the most likable fighters, and one of the best champions we've had in modern history. Now, Mateusz Gamrot, massive run in the regional scene, huge run in the regional scene, becoming a champion over an octagon, loses his debut to Guram Kutateladze. Then he goes 3-0 in his next 3 fights with 3 straight finishes. Main event against Arman Tsarukyan, beats Arman Tsarukyan in a very close main event. He then gets destroyed by Beneil Dariush, and after that picks up 3 more wins in the UFC. He gets a finish in a main event against Rafael Fiziev, and then he lost to Dan Hooker at UFC 305, and he's picked up a win in his most recent fight against Ludovic Klein, which should have been a co-main event, but ended up being a main event for a fight night in the Apex. The style of Oliveira, one of the most dangerous submission artists in the UFC. I mean, again, you only ever see Oliveira get out-grappled when he's facing the best grapplers. He's still, to this day, one of the most dangerous submission artists in the UFC. Dominated Chandler with the grappling, submitted Poirier, submitted Gaethje, the most submissions in UFC history. Definitely the most dangerous submission artist. He's got a pretty reckless Muay Thai as well. I think that's the best way to describe his style on the feet. Reckless. Careless abandon. Doesn't care if he gets caught. Very vulnerable. But he's got very reckless and dangerous Muay Thai. But he is really hittable, and he lacks the chin. That's the biggest problem with Charles Oliveira. I mean, we saw it against Topuria, we saw it against Makhachev, we've seen it even against the likes of Poirier. Very, very hittable guy, and he does kind of lack the chin of Oliveira. Him getting caught a lot is his biggest flaw. Mateusz Gamrot is one of the best pure wrestlers in the UFC. He doesn't really have the submission ability to go with it. You know, he's not as dangerous like a Makhachev. Yeah, he hasn't really got the submission ability, but he's kind of made for dogfights. He's had so many dogfights in the UFC. Gamrot, the one against Arman Tsarukyan, the one against Dan Hooker, even the most recent one against Ludovic Klein. He's one of the funnest wrestlers to watch, is Mateusz Gamrot. This is a tough one, man. I'm going to go with Gamrot to win a decision. I'm going to go with Gamrot. I've got a feeling that Gamrot gets the job done. I don't want to completely write off Oliveira just because he's lost to literally the #1 guy in the world in Eli Topuria and some of the other best in Makhachev and Tsarukyan, but I think it's safe to say that Oliveira's on his way out. I mean, first of all, he's just been knocked out like 2 months ago, and I'm not saying he's going to get knocked out by Gamrot. Gamrot has no striking threat, at least no KO threat on the feet. But coming back this soon after a loss of that fashion, I don't know if that's good for Oliveira. And historically, we do see grapplers tend to be a bit of a flaw for Charles Oliveira. And you put him in against one of the best wrestlers who's been active, who's been fighting these contenders, beating these contenders in Mateusz Gamrot. I don't know if I favour Oliveira to beat that guy. I think Gamrot's 5-round pace is impressive as well. That's the reason he beat Arman Tsarukyan, who's also one of the best in the world. That was because of his 5-round pace. The loss to Dan Hooker arguably could have gone to Mateusz Gamrot as well. Apart from that, he's just been beating these other guys, dominated the prospect in Ludovic Klein in his most recent fight. I think Gamrot, I don't see him finishing out Oliveira. I can see a world where Oliveira gets kind of one of those Beneil Dariush-esque finishes where we write him off and then he gets a finish, but I'm going to go Gamrot to get this one done by decision. I think the wrestling of Gamrot is going to play into play. I do think it's going to be a bit of a, not a boring fight to say, because I don't think Gamrot's a boring fight, but I think it's going to be a very kind of Stoley-esque fighter where we just see Gamrot control over Oliveira across 25 minutes worth of grappling, deal damage with ground and pound, beat him with the wrestling, and win with that fashion. Similar to the Makhachev fight, except with less throat on the feet and less submission ability, but it is a tough fight to pick. It is pretty 50-50. We're talking about one of the best and most dangerous guys in the world coming off a couple of losses against Mateusz Gamrot, but Mateusz Gamrot, the most feared guy at 155 right now. I've got a feeling he's going to get the job done. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to go with Mateusz Gamrot to win this one by decision. Hopefully my undefeated pick, or my losing streak in main events as well, don't continue. But those are my picks for UFC Rio. Let me know if you agree, disagree with these picks, what your personal thoughts are. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching.